Hi, it's Blair with Handmade, and it's time for Quilting and Answer Thursday. Each week I share a video tip to help us all be better quilters, and this week's tip was suggested by my daughter who's home from college and ironically on spring break here at home. And a few of you have asked me the same question. So it's a great question because it happens to all of us. We can't be bursting with ideas all the time, and it's pretty normal to have inspired days and completely uninspired days. And right now, many of us are waffling between wanting to dive into a project and completely distract ourselves and wanting to just sit and binge watch The Office and do absolutely nothing. But if you, like me, thinks it would feel great to lose ourselves in a project and accomplish something during this time of being homebound, here are my 3 simple ways that I trick myself into starting a new project or getting inspired to make a new quilt. Little and I was at home all day with them, before dinner we would have a 10-minute tidy. It's an old preschool trick, maybe you've tried it, but I would put on some music and we'd rush around picking up our space, putting books back on the shelves, picking toys up off the floor, pillows going back on the sofa, things like that. I knew I could only get a few minutes of tidying out of them, so I tried to turn it into a game. Setting a time limit sort of got us all moving and tidying, and it was a great way for us to reset for the evening. So now I've adopted something similar in my studio. Now, although a 10-minute tidy these days is more like a 1-hour podcast, my goal is the same. Within that amount of time, I clear surfaces, I fold up and put away fabric I'm done with, clean up scraps, put tools back in drawers, wipe down the tabletops, and sweep up. It really helps get me focused and excited to start a new project. And I know for me, setting a time limit is very important for the way I work, because I can get easily sidetracked by some detail, and before I know it, I've spent the whole day on one thing, leaving the space just as messy as it was when I started, and me too frustrated to tackle it. I talk about this in my lectures because it has been so important to my creative practice. I have pieces of fabric at my sewing machine, pre-cut, ready to go, and organized. Now, organizing them can be as easy as putting them on a piece of foam core from the dollar store or on a tray from the craft store, which works especially well because it has sides and I can move it in place to work on it and move it aside once I'm done. Now, these scraps turn into things like log cabin blocks, half square triangles, or maybe a simple paper pieced project like the one I showed you last week. Several quilts that I have made began as scrappy pieced 5-minute blocks. And the key for this working for me is having the pieces ready to go so I can grab and sew without much thought. It can trick me into feeling like a lot can be accomplished in a short amount of time. Anytime I'm really unfocused and at a loss as to what to do, I'll sit down at the sewing machine and make a few scrappy blocks. On days when I feel like I get 0 time to sew, I'll also sit down and make a few of these. and it truly helps my mind to make even just a couple of blocks because it reminds me of how good it feels to create. These days, I always have some simple, small project ready for me to work on while I am watching a movie with my family. At our house, we often watch TV in the evening, and by me being tired by that time of day, combined with the lack of good lighting, can make it hard to work on any kind of project that requires concentration and focus. But I really enjoy having something to work on to keep my hands busy. And I have found that by trying different techniques like boro stitching and most recently cantha stitching, both which are basically long lines of running stitches using thicker threads, allow me to set myself up nicely and keep productive without the need for strong light and intense focus, which can be frustrating. It's fun to sit with coffee the next morning and look at how much I got done in my downtime the night before. For your creative spark and trying to find it again, I hope one of these tips will help. If you're not feeling creative, rest assured that urge will come back. Give it time and go easy on yourself. If you have other ideas and suggestions for reigniting your creative urge, please share them in the comments below. As always, find even more tips, patterns, tools, and tutorials at my website, wisecrafthandmade.com. Be sure and subscribe to my channel on YouTube or IGTV to know when each new video is posted, and I will see you next week. Take care.